All right, and we are now recording. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Veterans Perspective. Bringing back my good friend, my good friend LeGrand here on the Veterans Perspective. We're going to kind of continue the conversation we had last time. So we're two veterans of the U.S. Submarine Force. I myself was an 11-year vet enlisted, working as a fire control technician. And today we're going to, use our background and talk about minimum wage, maybe touch on healthcare, post-Navy life, those kind of issues. And without further ado, and again, I'm Chris, the host. And without further ado, here's my good friend LeGrand. So if you want to introduce yourself and give a little background and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm LeGrand Love, and like he said, we are both from the submarine community. He did 11, I did double that. I did 22 years. Yeah, long time. So I was in communications, retired in 2017, came out, went directly to college to finish up my bachelor's in cinema and directing. Did that, and now I'm getting ready to finish my master's in entrepreneurship for creatives. It's a new program I found that just helps creative people start to build their own ventures. So I've been working on a nonprofit, actually. It's called Media Artist Development Organization, which is I'm founding for young aspiring media artists in underrepresented communities. So yeah, I've been up to a lot of different things that I'm pretty sure we're going to get into right now.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I'll put some links. I'll try and put it below in the video. So if you're interested in those programs and what they're about, please find that link and go ahead and click into that and reach out to us, and we'll try and give you more information if you're looking for that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's amazing that you actually got out and you didn't go to standard. When you're getting out of the military, there's a big fear of like income and finding the right amount of money. And you were able to actually, kind of do the college aspect, and you're pursuing your master's degree. And it sounds like you're killing it. So I'm really maybe proud of you that you're able to follow your dream in that way, which is really cool. Because a lot of people just work till they die, which is unfortunate. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, when I got out, that was I set a few goals. I'm pretty sure, like I said, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of those things, but I set some goals, and one of the biggest things was like, for a lot of sailors who are in submarines that don't get the opportunity or really think about going to school, which I didn't for a very long time. Being on submarines back in the day was a little bit different from like when I was about to retire, when you had access to like the internet and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different because, when I started out, you had to do just like PACE courses and stuff like that. So it was like, take it out to sea with you, get it done, and then you turn it all in to Navy College when you get back. And I was just like, no, I need to be in a classroom, So I set some goals when I got out, and that was one of the main ones to finish up, get my education, and after that, I'll play around with the workforce and whatnot. But I just wanted to be happy, and I felt like I knew that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to really get done. So you just have to set your priorities and make it happen.
Definitely, because for me, I'm working on college myself, and it depending on what kind of career you go into, what your family life is like. Yes, you're no longer standing duty or going on deployments or standing watch, but there's other things that come into play. One, you're going to love having some freedom to maybe go to the park or, try new things with your life and just not have that stress. So now you're trying to add on top of at least, let's say, a minimum 40-hour job, you're trying to add on a full-time commitment to college, whatever level of college you're going to. That's going to take away your time, and it's going to tire you out more than you think. And then if you have a family, it becomes even more complicated to set aside that time. So there's a lot of things you deal with in civilian life, I think, that make that goal harder. And to the point of you set that goal and you did it. It's really impressive, but I think it takes planning when you're getting out, you have to plan that out right, because just going into college using a GI Bill is not a guaranteed good lifestyle. I mean, if you don't have any extra income coming in, if you're planning on working, what kind of work can you find? And then you're also setting behind, if you have a skill set that is highly valuable, the longer you go without using it, you lose your opportunity often to, get an employer to want to hire you. If you go in there, you're like, oh yeah, well, I took 8 months off and then I went to college doing the minimum. So I haven't done anything in that field for 3 years. Well, in technology, you're now way behind the power curve. So that's a big consideration, but it's really amazing that, you're pushing your master's.
Yeah, you're totally correct because my circumstances are completely different from yours, where you're married and with the dog in the house and the family and all those things, the responsibilities, right? You have to make sure that you're, thinking about. Um, I wasn't in that situation, being single, no kids, I was just kind of off on my own. And plus, just like you said, when it comes to the financial aspect of it, I had a lot of benefits outside of just the GI Bill. I also had my retirement and disability and all those things to help with, the finances each month. And so I could literally just go to school and not worry about anything, whereas someone who's not in that position, who didn't maybe retire, wouldn't have as much income, every month and not able to just kind of, concentrate on school without the worry of paying bills and things like that. So yeah, you have
And
absolutely
not to say it's not possible at all. I
right.
mean, you
Right.
can. It's just the planning point you have to think about. And we talked about it in the previous episode. Taxes are
Right.
totally different. Healthcare. You no longer have that, that guarantee of like, well, I spent all my money, so I'll just go eat on the ship. Or,
Right.
well, I got the barracks to fall back on. And it's a lot harder to move back in home if you're, 25 or 30, and
Right.
it's a totally different lifestyle, I think, for most people to go from being independent, having a good income, assuming you made like E5, you're probably living really well, and then trying to step back and go to college. So I think it's a huge consideration. And if you guys have more questions about some of those programs, I'm familiar with it, and LeGrand's pretty familiar with it. So yeah, it's hard because you suddenly have real risk you have to consider.
Right.
You know,
But and I'll be honest with you, there is some sacrifice too to this. It's no matter which circumstance you come out of the military with, there's still some sacrifice that you have to make in order to make it all work. So it's not like, everything is peachy cream. Even if you're in my circumstances, it's not like everything is just perfect.
Right.
There's still some other considerations that you have to think about.
Location, right? Because you
Location,
get out of the military in Los Angeles. That was the goal. So you
Mhm.
had to relocate to Los Angeles, find a
Right.
place to live.
Absolutely.
And then, I'm assuming you didn't just like buy a house and see, in Los Angeles.
I still don't have a house here in Los Angeles.
So
This is it's expensive. So I mean, and I've even recently made the decision as recently as this week. After I'm done with my master's, I'm actually going to be moving back down to Georgia. One, I haven't been close to family and things like that, but the cost of living is different, and then the media, that particular realm that I'm in, that field that I'm in, is really sort of booming in Georgia. So it's a lot of different, things that's going on right now. So I like in September, October timeframe, I'm going to be leaving.
awesome.
So,
No, I mean, go for it. That's always a hard choice to make and to do. So good luck with that. If you were closer, I'd help you move, but I'm in Virginia. So
don't worry about it. I got help.
So on that topic of like moving and relocating and kind of picking, for me, it was kind of an easier decision because I got out in Norfolk and my wife really liked the DC area. And I didn't really care where I lived too much, but it was an easier choice because I had family in the area. So I was like, sure, let's go try it. So I found a job in the area. And the thing I found, at least when I was looking into that, and maybe you can speak on it with the media and the kind of the career you're looking for and your entrepreneur, line of work. I was actually really limited in the kind of work and opportunities for the area. So you may have to move out further. Now, I know things are a little different because it's pandemic and there's remote work, but generally, if you're getting out as an E5 or even an E6, whatever the case may be, you're going to have some kind of technician role. You're not going to go be a supervisor or management without some kind of college degree, which most people don't get while they're in. So at least on the entrepreneur and business side and media side, what's been your experience with location and finding like the right classes, the right college? I mean, is it just like, oh, everything's easy, or was it kind of complicated? And also the GI Bill and finding things that accepted that. You want to touch on that for the viewers?
Yeah. So, the relocation part of it was, I relocated to the place where I felt like the school was going to be I would get the most out of the school. Right. And so when I first started looking around it was around 2016, 2015, when I first started really sort of concentrating on which school I would go to. I chose a different school initially than the one that I ended up in. Got accepted into that school, but the accreditation wasn't all that good. And so that's one of the things that it was a national accreditation. I was looking for a school that was regionally accredited, because I knew that that's, something that a lot of, other colleges, if I had to transfer, that would be something that, they would have to, that I would have to consider. So I was looking for that, and I found the school that I ended up going to, through my girlfriend, whose brother had attended the same name school in Chicago. So that's, he knew about this school here in Los Angeles. And so I was like, oh, okay, great. I want to be in Los Angeles, in the sort of media capital of the world, which, just made sense to me. And that's the reason why I decided to come here. For people getting out, though, and trying to decide on that kind of thing, especially when you're at E5 or, any rank,
Any
what I'm
rank,
saying?
yeah.
Any rank. And if you have family and all those different things to consider financially, that's absolutely something that you want to think about. You want to think about the cost of living. I've talked to a number of my old, just military friends and things like that, and they've all said, there's no way I could live there in Los Angeles. It is expensive. It's
It's a
really
hard move for sure.
It's a hard move. It's a hard move. And I'm not going to lie. I kind of had a little bit of a struggle just between, graduating, when all the GI Bill stuff stops, and then, getting into the job that I'm in right now. It was a little bit of a rough 2 months there, or whatnot, in between that little time right there, where, it was like I worked a minimum wage job, and we talked about that minimum wage job, where it's just like, okay, just kind of keeping things afloat until, we can get back to a little bit, better of an income. So that was kind of a challenge. And that's something that I think, like I say, everyone should think about, because that paycheck isn't coming on the 1st and 15th, what I'm saying? Like it used to. And so,
you're not guaranteed health care, and you're not guaranteed. I mean, the vacation is actually one of the biggest things I noticed is you get a lot of paid vacation. I mean, I know on submarines, it was like, I got 80 days I got to use. Like, you couldn't take enough vacation.
Right.
You could take that, but I mean, you could just drop 3 weeks of leave like it was nothing. I mean, that
absolutely
blows my mind. Most jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll kind of circle around to that, because you made a good point earlier about somebody you knew somebody who knew the school you were talking about. Right. I kind of wanted to go back to that. One of the biggest things, I think you just talked about your experiences, but networking and too much information. So you're going to suddenly go from the concrete, like, eat at this time, plan of the day, executed, you know exactly what uniform to wear, to a lot of small things. In my experience, were kind of overwhelming. It was like, I got to wear a uniform. Oh no, now I have to like pick my clothes for work. What's work appropriate? I had to go buy a suit for interviews. I had to buy a bunch of clothes because I have comfortable clothes, pants, jeans, but I didn't have office clothes. And I needed to buy a bunch of like t-shirts and pants, and I got fatter because I got out, because I stopped working out. So I had to like actually spend a lot of money for decent looking clothes so I could be presentable to go into the office and to go to interviews. And those little things, that too much information I was touching on, can actually be kind of overwhelming, especially when you're looking for colleges, because if you're looking for grants, if you're looking for, there's so much information on the internet now. There's so much information from all these different sources, and everybody's saying they have the best thing. This is the best way. You have to do it this way. Here's my top 15 list, and they're all different. They're all different schools, and it can really be overwhelming. And that circles back to the point of networking that I have found for me and my wife, actually. And I think, at least in my Navy experience, everyone was always saying like networking is really important. It really is important. I mean, I heard it in TAPS and TGPS. I was like, network. I was like, that is like so precise and accurate and very, very important, because I mean, it's not favoritism, but knowing someone who can introduce you is huge. Knowing someone who can give you insight into a career or a job or a school or a location, that's huge when you can talk to somebody. Because I have a friend who was getting out in Georgia, North Carolina, and he was asking about the area. And I was like, oh, well, I love it here because there's all kinds of different food. It's really comfortable. It's a little expensive on this side and this side. And I was actually able to give him insight into like utility costs, gas costs, price for insurance, because you have property tax for cars and all kinds of things that you're not used to paying. In the military, you can just say like, I'm in the military, and you don't pay that property tax on your, brand new 2013 Mustang you got. But then all of a sudden it's like, I have to pay $500 a year for that. What? Oh, I have to pay for this and this. So that, that networking please start reaching out to your family and friends if you know anyone in the area you're looking to or the school. I mean, that was my experience. And I think you kind of touched on it with how you picked your school, was somebody you knew who could give you insight into it.
Right. And I did. And so, like I say, the first school I chose, it wasn't the right fit. So, I kind of put the search down because I was really disappointed about it at first. And
Did
so,
you go to that school, or you
no,
just
I didn't go to I looked at it. I got accepted. I applied and everything got accepted. And for whatever reason, I never looked at just a simple, quick look at the accreditation. I got all this stuff in the mail and I opened, I started reading. I was like,
yeah, they got you all hyped up and like, you're accepted. This is the best program. By the way, we're not accredited everywhere. So.
Right.
The GI Bill is going to defund us next semester.
Right. So we'll take a GI Bill though, but yeah. And this is the one thing I'll tell, I'll say to any veterans out there who's looking to go to school. Do, like you're saying, absolutely network, but do a lot of research. Don't just choose one school just because, that school is easy to get into. Absolutely, like really sort of set some parameters for the school that you want to attend and start to look for the school that's going to fit all those parameters, because not a lot of people, think about, the fact that, hey, look, this school may have these different, resources or whatever, but there's a catch to it, and that catch is this, so you absolutely look at all the different requirements that you want to make sure it gets filled, and find a school that best fits you. And trust me, there are a ton of schools out there, right? I've done so much research on just schools, man. So look, there's a ton of them out there, and absolutely work with, everybody goes through TAPS, so, and everyone's making different plans. And that's a really, cool thing about that particular, little part of getting out, is trying to figure out what do I want to be? Do I want to go straight into the workforce? Do I want to go to school? Do I want to take some time off and maybe, start whatever it is, right?
Do I want to join the reserves? I met.
You want to go to the reserves, right?
Yeah, I met a bunch of people in the reserves, and I was like, hey, like, what's it like being in the? Like, oh, well, I've been gone for a year, and I just got back. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah. A lot of factors, so definitely,
absolutely. And so when you're there, and while you have everything pretty much readily at your fingertips, use that information, and use those resources to just plan out your exit strategy, right? That's the one thing I don't think a lot of service members really think that much about, is that exit strategy. How do I go from this to get to my next end goal, and really sort of map it out? That's
for me, yeah, because I know for me it was like, okay, I know I'm definitely getting out. I have this goal and this intent with my lifestyle, but I didn't break it down probably as much as I needed to. Like, what's the cost of health insurance in that area? What's the cost of car insurance in that area? What's the cost of living in that area compared to income? Because I had job offers I just had like a number of salary in what I was looking for, but I wasn't comparing it with the cost of living. So there was a much lower salary job in like Missouri. And I was like, no, I want this job, it pays more. And then come to find out that I would have had a much better quality of life. My money would have gone a lot further, because like the cost of a house in Missouri, I have two friends who bought houses there for like $110,000 to $130,000 for like, 2-story house with like a yard. I mean, not brand new, but they got a house. That's pretty hard nowadays.
Yeah.
Whereas the cost of living here, where I ended up, townhouses are $400,000 to $500,000. It's a whole different ball. You need $1 million if you want like a house. So don't just assume you're going to get out your VA loan and, Gucci, buy a house and just make the payments, because I talked about it in another episode. One of my friends, Chris, he I hope he's watching. He bought a house in California, in San Diego, and he knew his income, he knew his and everything, but he did his taxes wrong. So he assumed he would have this much income. And after his house with California taxes and everything ended up being $3,600 a month. And his income after taxes was $4,000 a month, but they still gave him the house. So everyone out there is out there to get your money. Do your research and network, because you'll be surprised that the military, as cold and heartless as it may have seemed at many times, they are looking out for you. And there's a lot of good people who may be grumpy and may like be short with you, but they are taking care of you. And they, at the end of the day, I think almost everyone looking back had my best interest at heart, except for that one lady. She screwed me.
Yeah, man. But I don't. And this is not to say don't get out.
Absolutely, yeah.
If the opportunities and your end goal is something that you cannot achieve while you're in the military, absolutely, go ahead and take that leap. Is not the worst thing getting out of the military, right?
You'll
I think
survive.
one of the things, and I used to do a first term success workshop in the Navy, right? So all the new sailors that would come to that would be going out to the boats from the different squadrons, they would at first have to come through NSSC. And so, and that's Naval Submarine Support Command. And so,
I was about to say,
yeah, Naval Submarine Support Command is where all of the, anyone checking into their new command, which is a new submarine or a new duty station that they're going to, they would have to come through NSSC in order to do all their check-in process. And part of that check-in process for the new sailors was to do what we call first term success workshop. And myself and another NC, we would lead those
for my civilian
workshops.
viewers, what's an NC?
Navy counselor is a Navy counselor. So that was like the last duty station that I had was as a Navy counselor, working with different sailors on just their career paths and things like that. So
how many people do you think that went through that process took it seriously?
Oh wow!
I know I did it
seriously. So when I was actually sort of running that whole thing, I could absolutely probably estimate around a good 20,000 that went through there. And it's a lot of sailors that come through there. But out of that number, I would probably say maybe a quarter of it took it seriously. Most of them were just there because it was required and they had to be there. But I would always tell them, this is the one thing I would tell the first term success workshop students was, at some point, this is going to end, right? Either you can die, you can retire, or you can separate, but you're going to get out.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
One way or another.
One way or another, you're getting out. So you set yourself up, for success, starting from the beginning. And that, even if you don't decide to get out after 4 years, you're still ready to, like you're still prepared to get out. And don't be afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't be scared of it. I know that the military provides a lot of cover for us. They provide a lot of these securities for us that we don't, so that we don't have to worry about these little, things. But it's absolutely something that you can do for yourself as well.
One mantra I came up with along that line, I mean, it's, in the same vein of what you're saying, is like, if you can make it on a submarine or if you can make it in the military, and some people don't make it, some people can't handle it and they kind of struggle, but if you can make it in the military, be competent at your job, like show up on time, do the stuff, meet all the requirements, I promise you can make it in the civilian world. The things that I think I'm trying to highlight and that LeGrand's trying to highlight is that it's going to be different than you expect. Even if you're only in for 3 or 4 years, when you come out, it's going to be a huge social difference, cultural difference, and it might be a shock. And I think that's what hits a lot of people. And so trying to highlight that, I think you're doing a good job of highlighting. It's like you get out and you thought all this stuff, and it's like, oh wow, what? It's totally different. But if you can make it in the military, I promise you can be successful on the outside. You're smart, you're intelligent, you're healthy. I mean, not everyone gets in the military, so you have an advantage. And then you have that veteran advantage too. So don't let the comfort factor keep you in as like a fear, like, oh, I have anxiety about getting out because I'm going to lose my health insurance. I'm going to lose that guarantee. You'll get a job, man. Like your work ethic is better than you think. You'll do well.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you brought up some of the other little small things, like, having to pick your own clothes out, gaining some weight and all those different things, because the lifestyle you have there's a discipline that, if you really sort of want to maintain certain things, you're going to have to think about that, right? You're going to have to really consider those disciplines. We didn't think about working out because we were made to work out. Like, you got up every morning and it was like, we're doing PT, right? You knew the uniform you were going to put on. So that was a decision already taken out of your hands. You didn't have to worry about those small things. You just have to show up and make sure my teeth is brushed and, I actually have a good haircut or whatever. And I'm good to go. So that's a whole lot different when you get out to, civilian work. And it's crazy that we don't think about that. It's crazy that that's like Oh snap!
No
I
one's
gotta
gonna
do that?
force you to
No.
shower. No one's gonna force you to wake up. Like if
Right.
you don't wake up from the military, someone's gonna come to your door.
Somebody's
Like they're
gonna
gonna
come.
find you.
Right. So I'm glad you pointed that out, you know. And then the social aspect is a lot different as well, right? I so on submarines, we can have in control. I remember this control is the sort of the brains of the submarines where everything could kind of happen is this, you know, things orders sort of go out from control throughout the rest of the ship. And that's an area that myself and Chris worked in. And so we would be in control with other sailors and they're working with us. And some of the conversations, especially on the med watch, that 12 to 6 watch, you know, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. watch. It's like, or was it 11:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m.
11:30 to 3:30.
Yeah, 11. Yeah, exactly. So it's 4 hours.
Assuming you got relieved on time, man. If you were a late
Assuming.
reliever, get off my show. I don't want to talk to you no more.
Oh my God. But yeah, so you know, the conversations were different because it was all male, you know, and and that's something that I didn't think about really. You know what I'm saying? When I came out to the civilian world, you just thinking nobody takes things so seriously. Everybody is like just relax. And I swear the conversations that we had, you cannot have those conversations out in the civilian world. Like
it was,
I don't even know I feel comfortable talking about them on the podcast.
I was and I remember I went to my first job, like, and I was getting a tour and my boss was a female, her boss was a female, the vice president was a female, and everyone I interacted with, like there was probably 12 females out of like 20 people. And I'm not trying to be derogatory. It's just, you know, as a sub coming from just the way I talk to people, the way we live, like,
right.
There was no chill. There was just men, submariners, underwater, you know, you're totally inappropriate. And so I'm just like, sit on my hands. Don't say anything inappropriate. Don't cuss. Don't look too hard at them. I don't, you know, it's like a stressor all of a sudden that whatever you think about that, it was a culture shock to suddenly have to,
it is,
you know, you just like, when you want to go talk to somebody like, oh, hey man, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. You start talking and then you see a female sit next to you and you're like, can I say, and all that like Navy training is like, you know, like, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm not going to say anything. But
and granted, that is sort of unique to certain, you know, certain divisions or certain communities in the military. Like we were in submarines, and so during that time, I mean, although that's changing now, there's more females on submarines now than there were when I was in, for sure.
Same.
But and then there were different platforms. So we were on fast attacks, and you know, obviously they didn't
fast
have
tough.
So there's different types of submarines. The type of submarine we were on, Chris and I together, was we call a fast attack. There's Tridents, and then there's SSGNs, which are submarine submersible guidance, nuclear submarines or whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into all of that. I was on all of them. But me and Chris and I were on a fast attack submarine, and we didn't have females. There were no females on fast attack.
Smaller crew, closer knit,
crew,
high work tempo because it was just one crew.
It was one crew. So and so we didn't have really on those that exposure, or that, you know, have the females. Now I did see them coming through NSSC at the end of my career, and I was like, man, that's so cool. Like she's a supply officer. She's a, you know, like she's on submarines, and she like actually has dolphins on right now. That's cool.
And you know what's crazy is a lot of people are, I'm sure there's some old crusty, like ignorant people that are like, oh, women shouldn't be. That's the dumbest stuff I ever heard. You need perspective. You need balance. When you have a bunch of testosterone hopped up men, it's not good. You know, we become more chatty than high school girls. Like it's bad. I mean, you kind of, I mean, it's just society. You need that balance. So I think it should be more inclusive, you know.
It should be more inclusive. I think it does change the sort of culture of submarines from the past. It absolutely changes, you know, and like you said, a perspective is not something that you're going to get very often from male sailors. I mean, that's just the truth of it. That the perspective that I feel like a lot of females bring to the workforce is like, to me, it's unique and it's needed. You know, we need to have that perspective in all walks of life, and that is absolutely a good point that you bring up.
You know, and that brings let's do a C story here. So He's a CEO of a CBD like cannabis company now. I'm gonna call him out.
Oh
Maybe he'll
yeah,
come on.
yeah.
His name was
Austin,
Rodas.
Austin
Austin
Rodas.
Rodas. He was
Yep.
oh my gosh.
Let me
So
hold on before you start the story though. Hold on before you start that story. So Austin and we were really, really close. Started really working together. Austin, actually, I have a theme song for a show that I was doing called South in Your Mouth. And the music for that show, Austin was doing like he was doing a lot of music at that time. And
yeah,
so he hooked me up with that. And this was like right before I got out. He lived right down the street from
I
me.
remember he got into music really big.
Exactly. And so he was asking me about my taxes and how I was going to, do everything for my company. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I don't really know, but he had a tax guy. So he takes me to see his tax guy. Me and this guy sits down, we talk and everything. And then as we were leaving, Austin was like telling me about this CBD company that he was starting. But I was still active duty at the time. So I'm like,
stop talking to me.
I was like, man, I don't know, what I'm saying, if I can do that because like I'm still in the military and I don't know if it's legal. I don't want to get in any trouble. And so he was like, all right, man, not a big deal. I just wanted to, throw that offer out to you. So Austin literally like approached me about, and it was just like him and another guy. And I think maybe his wife was like part of that as well. Before the baby came and all that stuff, it was like, he brought this to me and I turned it down. And now I look at CBD Dream right now and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, how did I not like involve myself with that company? But man, good on him. Because
yeah. I should bring him in. I think that'd be a good.
Dude, that would be an amazing show, I think.
So let me call him out in regards to females on submarines and why I think it is a beneficial thing. I recall many a time. So you're sleeping in your rack and the berthing is around the bathroom, the head, and you wake up, you're tired, and you're just like, I need to pee, and you come out of your rack and you're like and you just kind of stumble into the head. And I open the head door, and he just got out of the shower and he's brushing his teeth. And he's like kind of like moving and dancing. He was like, oh, what's up? He is butt naked, head to toe. And I'm just like, what? He's like, oh, hey, man, what's up? He comes up. He's like brushing his teeth. Like, you going to the bathroom? I had so much energy. Stuff like that happened all the time. You just,
oh, man,
either butt naked or shenanigans. I mean, another quick sea story. I remember me and my buddy Dean were really good friends. And we would always mess with each other in the other one's rack. So he'd be, we were on opposite shifts. So we'd mess.
So make sure they know what a rack is, like what that stands for.
Okay, yeah. So a rack, when you sleep, you have like a 6-foot coffin with a curtain, and they're 3 high. So there's one on the floor, one in the middle, one on the top. And so you climb in your rack and you close the curtain. That's where you sleep. And oftentimes you hot rack, but that's a topic for another time. And so we'd always mess with each other, like come up and like punch each other in the rack or like shake them awake. And, because you get bored and you get crazy. And I was really tired and he was fucking with me and I had to fart. So he was like, and I stick my ass out the sheet and I'm about to let it go. And so while I'm doing this, someone came out of the bathroom and he's like super tired. I don't know this. And he's like stumbling down the passageway. And he's like, so Dean is like, oh, and he moves out of the way. So Dean moves and the guy is right next to it's pitch black. You can't see anything. And I let loose. And he's just, I come back and I look for him and I see the guy. Like, what the fuck, man? So women on submarine would have a lot of those behaviors because they wouldn't put up with it, and
they wouldn't put up with that at all. Oh my God, that's so funny though. That just like it's you can picture like a fraternity. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, of like just silly dudes. But the one thing I can tell even with all that, it's like still one of the most professional and just like well-trained communities.
Oh, absolutely,
out there.
It had an on-off switch. When mission, when you were doing. You that was really impressive to me because you could be naked dancing with your toothbrush and then fire
alarm and
ready in 30 seconds.
Exactly, less than that. You just know what you got to do.
You really do trust everybody with your life, because I remember at some point the dumbest guy. There's always the dumbest. The guy you're like he's an idiot, but you train him and you trust him, because I remember every time you dive the ship, I know who did rig for dive. I know all the people. So rig for dive is when you set the valves and you make sure that no water is going to come in the people tube, so that everything's good to go. And it's one of the most critical and important things you do is you verify everything is ready to go to submerge the ship. And you're in the rack thinking, I got to be on watch at 6 hours, but I know I was always awake. Didn't matter when I was always awake for that first dive, and I was always thinking about who turned those valves and did I trust them? Because sometimes it could be hundreds of valves. This one person went through and tested, and there was a process, but you had to trust that they weren't going to get you killed. So as silly and ridiculous as we were, they very, very highly professional, and you got everybody's back.
Yeah. I was, and I was just talking to somebody, a friend of mine, a civilian, about this. Hell, I'm a civilian now too, but I was just talking to her about this the other day, because she was just like, she's so fascinated with the whole submarine thing. And so I was telling her, she was like, so what do how does this work? And we got into the whole diving evolution. And I was telling her that very same thing, like how, it's absolutely one of the most critical moments of being on that boat is when you dive the submarine,
especially after a hull cut.
When you're diving that submarine and you're trying to just make sure everything is good to go. Like that's a sphincter, moment where everything is just like everybody, no one's playing around, everybody's up, everybody's watching, they got their flashlights out, you run around the sub just trying to find them, like, where's the leak? Like, is there any leaks in this train? Yeah, nobody wants we're not trying to stay down there, trying to come back up.
Everybody's trying to go home.
Yeah.
Well, I would say there's more airplanes in the ocean than submarines in the sky, so
we're trying to come up and they're trying to stay up.
Yeah. No, I mean, let's we'll have a couple more go into those sea stories. I think people appreciate them. And then what we can reveal, obviously we can't talk about anything, right? But the thing with secrets and like stuff you're not supposed to know, it's normally boring, so you guys aren't missing anything. We're at about 35 minutes now, so we talked pretty heavily on mostly post Navy life, and I think we touched on some good stuff. I'm going to get the links for you for your company, and maybe some articles to read about post Navy life in college. Austin, if you watch this, hit me up and we can get you on the show. Maybe you got some embarrassing stories for me that won't get me in trouble with my wife. And if you want to get on the show and just talk to a veteran, anyone is welcome. You don't have to be a veteran yourself. We can just hash out some details, some differences, some questions you might have. So I'll let you do your outro, LeGrand, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, so we got a couple of things coming out here soon. One is A Price to Pay, which is a multimedia play that we actually designed and put together. Is in its final stages of post-production right now. There's supposed to be a live play with some media sort of inserted into it to help with some of the elements of the play. But it turned out COVID hit and we didn't want to postpone things too much. So we went ahead, we got to Chicago and we actually filmed it, filmed a live play. Yeah, we've actually filmed a live play. And so Price to Pay really kind of follows the life story, the real life story of a Vietnam veteran who came back denied his VA benefits, who came back with, some really, really bad PTSD. I was about to say PSD. Some really bad PTSD.
I got PTSD from PSD.
I know.
PSD is the pay department for the military.
That's funny. Yeah. No, that's fine. But no, he came back with really bad PTSD, some horrible injuries, and the story is told from his perspective. And so that's actually a traveling play. I'm going to talk to maybe we can put that up as well. That's another thing that we have coming out. And like I said, MADO is a media artist development organization. It's a nonprofit that I've been developing in my grad program, and I'm actually going to get things rolling when I get down to Georgia. And this is, like I say, I just noticed that there's a lot of young media artists who just don't have access to this type of equipment and training, and maybe not even the money to get that access and training when it comes to things like film and television type work or skill sets that would allow them to get that type of work. And so one of the biggest things that I want to do is just be able to bring that access to these underrepresented communities. And that's what Media Artist Development Organization is being built for. I don't actually have a website just yet for it, but everything is being put into place. And so look for that, here in the coming months, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So while we wait on the website, what I'll do is if you have an email or some kind of link you want to do, I'll provide that in the bottom. And the traveling play actually sounds really, really interesting. So I'll provide some information on that on the website. Thank you so much for being on the show. I love talking to you. It's good to catch up. Again, this is the Veterans Perspective, where two veterans kind of ramble about post-Navy life, post-military life, and try and help you guys and share some sea stories while we're at it. So thanks for tuning in. It really helped me out if you could share this, like, comment. You can comment anything. I'm trying to track how many people are being reached by this. But yeah, please give it a share. Please give feedback. No feedback is bad. Again, this was the Veterans Perspective with LeGrand and Chris. And thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.
Guys, take care.